Welcome to Cities Connect, where we discuss issues that matter. Cities Connect is an ongoing weekly series featuring presentations by subject matter experts on a variety of topics. Each of these presentations has been specifically created for Georgia's city leaders and provides information designed to benefit municipalities and their residents. We appreciate you watching this episode of Cities Connect, and we hope you enjoy the presentation.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. This is a very important topic that we'll be discussing today. I've been in the insurance industry now for going on 30 years, and being on the casualty side of the insurance world, we are frequently made aware of truly devastating events that negatively impact people, and even hearing about these things second and third hand from a claims process, that really has an impact on many people in the insurance industry. And I have known people to leave the insurance industry because they didn't. It really hurt them emotionally or mentally to hear about some of the things these horrible things that happen to people. I even had a family member that was a long-term police officer, and he was excited to make detective, but once he made detective and he had to focus on investigating crimes against women and children, he just frankly could not deal with it mentally, and so he left law enforcement and became a lawyer. The stories that we hear are just horrible, and we ask our first responders to deal with this kind of stuff every single day on a regular and recurring basis. I think it's I wanted to point, Ben Franklin created the first fire department in 1736. It was known as the Union Fire Company, and then the first full-time police department was created in Boston in 1838. For almost the entirety of the time period since then, we have been asking our first responders to respond to these horrible events and then just deal with it. They have been expected to just process these events without help and just pretend that it's another day on the job. There's no question that the prevalence of mental injury and PTSD or mental stressors and PTSD is much higher in the first responder community. And fortunately, in recent years, there have been efforts to create programs and benefits that are to help our first responders. A number of programs have been set up in other states, and for the last few years, there have been bills introduced in Georgia in consecutive years that attempt to help first responders deal with the ramifications of a PTSD diagnosis. The problem with dealing with it after the fact is then they've already suffered the injury. So there also needs to be programs in place that help the first responders deal with these events when they happen, and that they're able to have resources that are confidential to them, that don't pull from their from out of their pockets. And it also does not negatively impact their positions as a police officer or a firefighter or any of the various other first responder job classes that are out there. There was, a couple of years ago, there was a bill introduced that would have created mental injuries as a trigger for benefits in the workers' compensation system for a number of reasons. That is probably not the best way to address it. Last year, House Bill 855 was created, and it would have provided critical illness and long-term disability benefits for first responders that are diagnosed with PTSD. The bill did come out of committee with a positive referral, but it just never made it to the House floor last year for a vote. So we do expect that bill to come back this year. And that bill was frankly created after many, many meetings, group meetings with various first responder interest groups. And it was, I think it was a very good bill, and hopefully it does come back this year. Again, so Georgia does see a need for it. So we do think that there will be something, some sort of legislative bill passed to help the first responders. But fortunately, in 2019, Georgia did create the Georgia Office of Public Safety Support, which began operations in 2019. And it is a peer support counseling service for Georgia's first responders. We are fortunate today to have Wes Horn, who is the director of the Office of Public Safety Support, with us to talk to us about it. Wes is a special agent in charge with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. He is currently detached to the Department of Public Safety, where he serves as the director of the Office of Public Safety Support. He previously served as the deputy director of OPSS from 2019 to 2020. Wes began his law enforcement career in 1997 as a deputy with the Colquitt County Sheriff's Office, and he joined the GBI in 2001. Wes holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Valdosta State University and a master's degree in public safety administration from Columbus State University. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to Wes.
Thank you, Stan, and thank you, Alan. Thank both of y'all for giving us the opportunity this morning to take just a few minutes to talk about what we have, what we offer at the Office of Public Safety Support. So hopefully, at least some of you all on the call have heard of us. If not, then we'll achieve our mission today of getting the word out. Any opportunity we get to talk to a group of first responders or those that oversee first responders, just to kind of get the message of what we offer now, what the state of Georgia offers to all of our first responders. We don't pass up on those opportunities. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity and very grateful for you all for being on here. And with that, I'm going to jump right into the PowerPoint. And I think there's going to be a brochure and one of our flyers that will be, I think Alan will upload it to the chat at some point during this presentation. And we want y'all to have those, number one, so you'll have the information about the office, and we have the state divided up, and I'll go into that in just a little bit, but we have 7 regions, and each region has a peer counselor. The information is on the brochure, and our contact information is also on the flyer. So with that, I'm going to try to start my presentation.
All right, Wes, it's up. Looks good.
Okay, good deal. So just a little bit more about the Office of Public Safety Support. We officially launched in July of 2019 after we actually had a state representative come to one of our seminars to see firsthand just the work that's being done. At that time was being done strictly by donations, and the impact that it was having on our first responders. The Representative Jody Lott then went back to the Capitol, and that's kind of how things started for us. So we officially launched. We were fully funded in July of 2019. They decided, and I think rightfully so, they decided that this office would be better served being housed under the Department of Public Safety. The Georgia Department of Public Safety was basically the first agency in the state, as far as state law enforcement goes, that started doing peer support, started training their troopers in the methods of peer support. The GBI followed suit a couple years later. We actually had a suicide of a beloved special agent in charge that was just very well thought of, and the suicide, it sent a shockwave through the GBI. And at that time, our command staff saw the need to train some of our agents to become peer counselors. And fortunately, I was one of those that was selected to be on the first team. And it's just kind of grown ever since then. So we're housed under the Department of Public Safety. Like Stan said, I'm kind of an anomaly. I'm a GBI agent, but I'm detached over to the State Patrol. So I work for the GBI director as well as the colonel, the commissioner of the State Patrol. And we have huge support. This office wouldn't be possible without the support of our the GBI director and the colonel of the State Patrol. They are very, very big supporters of our program, and they also, any chance they get to provide information on our program, they don't miss those opportunities. So with the budget that we were originally given, we were able to hire 5 peer counselors. Those 5 peer counselors all have first responder backgrounds. We actually hired 3 former law enforcement, 4 former law enforcement, including 1 from probation and parole. So he kind of had the corrections side of the house covered. And we also hired 1 firefighter. So we have every one of our peer counselors have been there and done that, and that's kind of the theme of of how this program works is people that have shared experiences, shared those traumatic events, and have made them through them, and are able to help their counterparts get through those events as well. But we also saw a need that not only would we need peer counselors, but we also recognize that some first responders need that professional level of care. So we felt like it was important to be able to provide that as well. So the initial funding allowed us to hire 2 mental health professionals as well. So initially we hired 2 licensed clinical social workers. And then we started putting the team together and started seeing people immediately, started seeing first responders immediately, from the peer side as well as the mental health side. So we were graciously given a little bit more funding a few years ago, and we were able to grow, which is a great thing. I think it's a testament to the program and to the work that our men and women are doing every day. So we currently have 7 peer counselors, and 3 mental health professionals. We have 2 full-time mental health professionals. Our 3rd mental health professional we hired, she was from out of state, so she's working on getting her licensing here in Georgia. So we hope to have her up and going soon. So we'll have a total of 7 peer counselors, and that does not include myself and Lieutenant Stacy Collins, who's a state trooper. He's assigned to the office with me, and then the 3 mental health professionals. And everyone, even our mental health professionals, have a public safety background. So this is what I was referring to a little bit earlier. Each of our peers, we divided the state up into 7 regions, and each region has a peer counselor assigned to their region. So in a little bit, I'll show you all a map that has our regions laid out. The map is also in the handout that will be in the chat box. And you should be able to look on that map, determine where you are in the state, and have a direct contact for your peer counselor, to provide that to your police departments, your fire departments, your EMAs, your dispatchers, jailers. And that those peers are on standby any time of the day or night. We actually have an on-call peer as well. So if your peer counselor is not available for whatever reason, if it's a weekend, we have a peer counselor that's on call 24/7, as well as a mental health professional, to meet the needs as they arise. So what do we do at OPSS? It's a very simple concept. It's just that been there and done that type mentality. We utilize certified peer counselors, mental health professionals, as well as service K9s, to provide necessary support to any member of public safety to help alleviate reaction to critical incident or traumatic events. So again, we cover law enforcement officers, all state and local, firefighters, emergency services personnel, your EMTs, paramedics, corrections officers, jailers, those that work in the jail, as well as the emergency services dispatchers, all fall under our umbrella and all are available to reach out to utilize our resources. So some of the examples that we like to give as far as critical incidents go, because I could probably ask each of you, and I'm sure you could name one. But one of the main things here is that it doesn't have to be on the job. It can be a personal incident. But some of the professional stuff that we see are cases and things that involve children. As you can imagine, anytime you deal with a case that involves a child, whether that child was hurt, that child was killed, those seem to have lasting effects. So we do a lot of those. We do a lot of we reach out and do one-on-ones with first responders following those type of incidents. Scenes with multiple fatalities, we work closely with traffic units that work traffic accidents on a regular basis. Officer involved shootings, as you all know, those cases are on the rise, and GBI works a majority of those. And I have, being with GBI, I have I'm made aware of those shootings, so we're able to reach out and at least offer our assistance to those police officers that been involved with officer-involved shootings or use of force cases. And then, of course, a big thing that we do and we're able to offer support with is when a first responder is injured or killed, and whether it be on duty or off duty, doesn't matter. You all can imagine the impact, and I'm sure probably some of you have experienced that yourselves in your cities. So unfortunately, we have had to do several of those in the last few weeks. Just we've had a few officers that were killed, a deputy sheriff that was killed. We've had a few officers that were killed off duty. So we're always ready to respond to those type incidents and provide whatever assistance that we can. So those are the professional And that's just a very narrow window of what our first responders see on a daily basis. But we also want to make sure that, I want to let y'all know that it doesn't have to be a professional incident. It can be the death of a loved one, the death of a friend. It can be divorce or a serious illness. We will reach out to our first responders who have experienced these type of incidents, critical incidents or traumatic events that are on a personal level as well. How do we do what we do? One of our biggest things that we do that we offer are the one-on-one peer interventions with a certified peer counselor. And I say certified peer counselor because once you become a certified peer counselor, whether being employed with the Office of Public Safety Support, or if we train you and certify you, then that first responder, that trained first responder, is then able to assure the first responder that they're talking to that anything that they say will be maintained in confidence. And confidentiality is a huge part of what we do. There's actually a law on the books that makes it a misdemeanor if we were to disclose what we're told. Obviously, there's some exceptions to that. If there's a threat of harm to themselves or harm to others, then we're going to do what we have to do to get them the help that they need. But that's one of the biggest things with this group, having been a first responder now for almost 30 years, very skeptical about talking to someone, especially talking to someone about how traumatic events have impacted you. So we hope to eliminate that fear by letting them know up front that, hey, whatever you tell me is confidential. It's the same confidentiality that a lawyer and their client share, or a doctor and their patient share. So it's very important for us, and we felt like that we had to have that. If this program was going to ever succeed, we had to be able to afford that to the first responders that we work with. So we do one-on-one peer counseling. We do diffusings, which are generally held shortly after an event. They're very short. Basically, it's an information session, and we give them some information on how they may see their bodies or how they may respond to these incidents in the coming days. Just give them a little bit of mental health information that hopefully they'll find useful to if they do have a reaction to the event. The critical incident stress debriefings, these are our group interventions. We do a lot of these throughout the state every year. And that is one thing we've seen continuously to grow. The numbers grow as word gets out about what we do as an office and the benefits, the positive benefits from it. So our debriefings have continuously risen over the last couple of years. Then we have our mental health professionals on staff and on standby. Basically, as you all can imagine, there's over 100,000 first responders in the state of Georgia. So we have we're soon to have 3 mental health professionals. So our mental health professionals, their main job is to assess the need. If a first responder, if one of our peers is working with a first responder that we feel like needs that next level of care, then we'll get our mental health professional involved. They will do an assessment, and if they feel like it's something that they can handle in-house, with a minimum number of sessions, then they will handle that. They will see that first responder and help them through the process. If from the onset, one of our mental health professionals sees that this may need extended care, the first responder may need extended care, then we will find them a mental health professional in their area. And these are mental health professionals that we have vetted, that we were just having this discussion prior to going live, that we have in the last 2 months, we have taken great care to make sure that our mental health professionals vetted list is as up to date as possible. So that way we can assure the first responder that when they reach out for help, that they'll receive the help that they need. But every one of these mental health professionals, we talk to them, we get to know them. We know that if they have or have not worked with first responders before. So it's a very important part. In fact, it's about the only way we could provide the professional services to all of Georgia's first responders. So our mental health professionals, they will work with the first responder if they see that it could be what we consider short-term care. But any long-term care, we're going to work with them, and the peer is going to continue to work with them. But we will try to get them to one of our vetted for mental health professionals. And then we train peer counselors. Again, the numbers just don't add up. There's 9 of us, including myself and Lieutenant Collins, 120 roughly 1,000 first responders. So a big part of our program too is that we train first responders in the to become peer counselors themselves, and then to go back to their agencies to be able to help the first responders within their agency. And when they established the office, they established that part of the office is that I certify individuals. Serving as the director, it's up to me to certify individuals as peer counselors around the state. So we have developed what we feel like is a advanced level peer support certification course, 40-hour course that we offer 4 times a year all around the state. So, and I'll tell you this, hopefully some of your folks have been to it. The classes fill up very fast. We've got one upcoming in October in Augusta. It's full with a waiting list, and we're about to announce, if they have not, they were going to put it up last week. I hadn't checked, but we have one upcoming in Cherokee County. And then we have the 4th one of our year will be in at the GEMA building in Forsyth. So for those of y'all, if you want to refer that or provide that information to your first responders, we love to train our first responders to become peer counselors. Not only do they help their agencies, but then quite frankly, we call on them oftentimes to help us. If we've got something going on in their city or their county, or even in their region, then we'll call on them and ask them to come help us, especially with the group interventions that we do. So training first responders is another very important part of what we do as an office. And then the post-critical incident seminars, and I'll talk more about those later on in at the end of the presentation. And again, we'll just stress the confidentiality. Again, if we didn't have that, we would our numbers would be minimal. If we can assure them that anything that they tell us is confidential, and that gives them faith and assurance in us that we're there to help, and we're not going to go back to the chief or to the sheriff or to the EMA director and let them know anything. I'm very upfront with especially if a chief calls or an agency head calls and ask us to reach out. I let them know, and our peers let them know up front. There will be no report. We will not call you back. Once that happens, it becomes between us and that first responder. So again, we can't put enough stress on the confidentiality part. So why use peer counselors? So basically, again, like I said, in a nutshell, we're peer counselors normalize the reactions caused by critical incidents through shared experiences, and that's the key to it. Is that I saw of you online here that are first responders yourselves, and we don't talk to outsiders very openly. And this is a way that fellow first responders can reach out and say, look, I've been there, I've done that, I've worn the badge, I've been in the fire department, I've worked in corrections, whatever the case may be. But you can, right off the bat, you knock down that wall, that stigma of this is somebody from the outside that's doesn't know what I'm going through. So that's why it's very important. But basically, that's the essence of peer support, is that we have been there and done that, and have made it through it, and we're going to help the officers get through it. So goes without saying, the number of critical incidents in public safety are growing. So our first responders are seeing stuff daily now that I always tell our first responders, we see stuff daily that a lot of people will not see in their lifetime, and if they do, they may only see it once or twice, and that will scar them for the rest of their life. And our job is to be able to process that. And unfortunately, up until the last few years, we didn't process things very well at all. Alcohol or whatever maladaptive coping mechanism we turn to was very common within the first responder ranks, and still is, to be quite frankly. But we're working on that. But this in today's world, we're seeing more, but we're also there are more opportunities to help process those events, whether it be through resiliency or whether it be through reaching out to a peer counselor, or whether if the need arises, reaching out to a mental health professional. And I don't suspect that the number of critical incidents are going to go down at any time soon. 88% of public safety workers have experienced at least one critical incident in their career. I would say the number is probably closer to 100%. If you've been doing this job for 3 to 5 years, you have experienced a critical incident. You have seen something, again, that would traumatize someone in the general public, probably for the rest of their life. Our folks, again, we just have to process it. We compartmentalize, and hopefully we're doing that in a healthy way now with the resources that are available. And then Stan mentioned PTSD earlier. The numbers show that up to 14% of public safety officers will be diagnosed with PTSD throughout their career. Our goal is to prevent PTSD. That's one of the main purposes of our office, is to work with those first responders before it gets to the level of PTSD. We also use canines. We have 2 state-owned canines. We also have 2 other personal service dogs with our unit. So we have 4 canines altogether. This is just a picture of one of our canines, Kylo. He went up to Washington after the riots and provided peer support. We had a group from Georgia went up to provide peer support to the Capitol Police, and they just basically walked around with the canines and let them get some love. And as you can see, it definitely puts smiles on their faces. But all of our canines are therapy canines. They're trained in therapy. They're trained to assess, or trained to pick up on anxiety, that type of stuff. So can't say enough good things about our canines. We're looking to grow that program as well, hopefully one day, and add a couple more canines to the unit. It has just been overwhelming. Just watching a first responder, especially when we go into a group setting, and it can be a very heavy group setting. The loss of an officer, which is that's the worst of the worst. And we take a dog into the group, and you just see people, when one of the dogs goes up, lays their head in their lap, you see smiles, or they start petting the dog. So can't say enough good things about our canine program. We're very thankful to have them. If you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I would have probably laughed if you'd said that canines would be a major part of what we do. But they really are. We couldn't do it without the canines that we have. So again, we're looking to hopefully grow that program one day. So you may ask, well, how many first responders use y'all, or do first responders use y'all? So I pulled the FY23 stats, and I can tell you since 2019, when we first started, the numbers are continuously going up, which is a testament to our people. One of the jobs of our peers are to go out into their regions and try to make contact with as many sheriffs, police chiefs, fire chiefs, EMA directors, 911 directors as they can. And with the sheer volume, there's still some cities and some counties that we have not gotten into yet, but we're working on that. But with the numbers increasing, so in FY23, we spoke with over 5,700 first responders. That's either one-on-one care, where we reached out to provide peer support following a critical incident. That's follow-up. So it's not a one-time and done type thing. It's when we work with a first responder, we'll work with them until they get to a better place, and we feel like that they're in a good place, and they feel like they're in a good place, and we'll continue to check on them throughout. It's almost like a lifelong commitment once we start working with a first responder. And then we also, so if we hear of a critical incident, we will reach out. We'll reach out to that agency. We'll reach out to that first responder and just say, hey, we're here. This is what we do. So we do a lot of that as well, which we call it pre-crisis prep. So we just make sure that information is in those first responders' hands if they need us. We did close to 100 group interventions last year. We actually did 98. Those are, I'll use an officer involved shooting as an example. Once you have multiple officers involved, we'll bring them in as a group, and we will do a critical incident stress debriefing on that incident. And some of you in the public safety world, you hear the word debriefing, and it's like an after action report where you look at what we did right, what we did wrong, what can we do next time to make it better. These are not those type debriefings. These are the questions are specifically designed to get them talking about the incident, and our goal is for them to leave there having a better understanding of the incident, but also start processing that incident in a healthy way. So we do. Last year we did 98 of those. We're on track this year to do as many or more critical incident stress debriefings. And then, as I mentioned earlier, our training, we trained and certified over 150 first responders last year as peer counselors. So they were able to go back to their agencies and provide peer counseling to their fellow officers within their agency. And we will, for those of you all who this is the first time you're hearing about us, we will be more than glad to help set up a peer team. We definitely recommend, if it's going to succeed, obviously your command staff level people have to support it, and but you need a team. We have policies that we can share to go to help you set up your team. We've even had some of our peers go sit on interview boards to select peer team members. So whatever we can do as an office to get your team up and going, we'll be more than glad to help any way that we can. And I would encourage you all to, if you hadn't, some of you probably have peer teams, but if you hadn't, definitely something to look into, and you can reach out to us and we can help you get started with it. And our mental health professionals conducted over 430 sessions with first responders last year. Let me get back to my script. So again, of those 430 sessions, that's basically 2 mental health professionals. So they are extremely busy. And some of those were 1 or 2 sessions to get a good assessment of the need. And then we find them a competent, culturally competent mental health professional in their area from our vetted list. One of the last things I want to talk about, I mentioned post-critical incident seminars a little bit earlier. These are, this was the seminar similar that Representative Jody Lott attended to be able to see firsthand what goes on. And up until this office started, those seminars were being provided just by donations. We had a group of first responders in the Augusta area that would go out, raise money, and do these seminars. So this is a big part of our office. This is a big part of why we are an office. So, but basically we try to do 4 of these a year, 3 to 4 at a minimum. We will do 3, but it's a seminar for first responders who have gone through the worst of the worst. We have first responders from everything from line of duty deaths to officer involved shootings to EMTs that have just been doing this for 30 years, and the cumulative effect has really taken a toll on them. Or dispatchers, same way, taking a terrible call and being stuck there at a console, not being able to do anything and not really getting any closure because they don't know how the event turned out. So this is open to all of our first responders. It is a peer-driven seminar, but our mental health professionals facilitate it. So one of our mental health professionals is the clinical director. So they oversee all of the clinical aspects of the PCIS. And basically what we do on day 1, we get into their critical instance. We ask them to share with us what it was that brings them to the seminar. And then day 2, we divide them up into small group, and each one of them are divided up into groups with similar events. And then every one of them get an opportunity to sit down with a mental health professional and do some one-on-one therapy. We do a therapeutic technique that's called EMDR. 3 of our therapists are trained in EMDR, and it is very beneficial. I have actually seen it. I'm not a therapist, so I'm not going to go into the inner workings of EMDR, but I have seen it change lives. I've seen it save lives. So I've seen this seminar save lives, and we always get on our evaluations, people say, this saved my life, or this saved my husband's life, or my wife's life. My husband didn't drink himself to sleep last night for the first time since the incident. So very, very powerful seminars. And we do encourage that significant others attend with them. They get the same treatment. So if an example would be if a law enforcement officer brings his wife she'll go into groups with other spouses, and they'll get one-on-one help as well if needed. So we not just treat the first responder, we treat the loved one or significant other as well. There's no cost for the seminar itself. The state of Georgia does provide that. The only cost associated with it is that the agencies are required to pay for lodging and meals at the seminar location. Right now we have 2 locations. We do one seminar will be held at the Helpworth Methodist Retreat on St. Simon's Island. And the other one is at Honey Creek Episcopalian Retreat, which is just down the road from Brunswick and Waverly. Those are the two locations that we currently host our seminars. So if we get an application, we send them an email back saying your application has been received and approved, and then we send out instructions on how to reserve their lodging. And at both places right now, the meals are included with the lodging. So that's the only cost is for the lodging and meals. And we do, like I said, we're currently planning on doing 3 to 4 in this fiscal year. We just had one not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and we'll have another one should be listed online in the coming weeks once we get the date set and the location set. So I would definitely encourage you all, if you're interested in that, to keep checking the DPS website. Our link on the DPS website, the OPSS link, and then we'll have the seminar dates listed on the side, one of the side links. And there should be when we open it up, there'll be a registration form on it for you to fill out and send in. So this is our contact list. This will be in that handout as well, but this is how we divided the state up into regions. And you can see on there our regional peers with their contact information, their cell numbers, and their email address. And of course, our office numbers on there as well. And then the website, how to get to our website, is listed there. I'm gonna leave this up for just a few minutes if y'all are okay with it. And that's all I have. I'll be more than glad to answer any questions. If anybody wants me to elaborate on anything, I'll be glad to do that as well.
Great. Well, thank you, Wes, and thank you, Stan. Stan, we really appreciate you setting the stage for today's discussion with some information on PTSD and efforts related to PTSD. Wes, wow, what incredible resources you all make available to Georgia's first responders. It's so great to know more about OPSS and the excellent work that you all are doing throughout the state. Your presentation was really informative. So we do want to open it up to questions for both Wes and Stan now.
Would you mind speaking to, we've recognized that the culture in the first responder community for forever and a day has been resistant to asking for help. And I think that leadership in the cities and counties play a large role in removing some of the stigma and the barriers of seeking help. With the younger generations, are you seeing more of an openness to reach out for help? And what do you expect and what are you seeing? Are the younger people more apt to reach out versus people my age? Or
yes, sir. No doubt. It's one of those things where, for me though, on a personal level, when we go into a group setting and we have a mixture, we have the crusty old guys like myself that's been doing this for a long time, and the young people. That's my target. Is the crusty old guy that that is made to be there, doesn't want to be there. The young people, has been my experience, they're going to talk. They're more than willing to come in and share. It's those old guys and ladies that have been doing this forever that were taught, suck it up, you can't do this job, if you need to find something else to do. But more times than not, once they allow the process to work, even those crusty old veterans, will make a comment, something to the effect, and it's kind of universal. Every one of them we do. I wish they'd have had this 30 years ago when I started. And that is very powerful. As you can imagine, sitting in a group, you got a young first responder, and then you got this old first responder who's been doing it forever. For them to say that just sends a message to the younger folks that it's going to be rough. It's not always things that you see, things that you hear, things that you go through are not will always be pleasant, but it's okay to reach out for help now. So I truly anticipate that our office, the calls for help just continues to grow, especially with the younger group. But once you get one of those older crusty first responders on board, they'll carry the flag for you as far as they can. So for me, being one of those myself, that's kind of, they always are in my target group when we do any kind of work with a first responder. So
thanks. And I have no idea as to what the science is behind the canine therapy or the EMDR treatment process. And for those that have not heard of it, the EMDR is an eye movement treatment plan. But I've heard that the results of these treatment options are just astounding.
Yes, sir. So it's funny, EMDR was actually developed. The lady was walking, had gone through something, was trying to process it, having a hard time, and was walking through, I think, Central Park in New York, and just noticed as she rotated her eyes back and forth, she started feeling better. So they started doing some research, and that's basically all it is eye movement desensitizing reprocessing. So basically, just simply moving the eyes, and it's in a controlled manner. I'm making it sound like it's just this simple process, but having a therapist do it, moving the eyes, or even they'll hold paddles, and but it makes both sides of the brain fire work, and that's what helps process. So it's funny how it was started just by simply a lady walking in the park, moving her eyes, and realized that it was helping her with whatever it was. Frances Shapiro, I think was her name, was the one that founded it. So I don't know a whole lot other than that about it, but I know it works. I have seen it firsthand. I've seen it change lives. And when it works, it's almost immediate. So very useful tool that we have in our arsenal working with first responders. Okay. So they should be on the website. If they're not, they will be on the website by the end of the week. But and I don't recall the dates right off the top of my head. We try to do one training per quarter. So we do have an upcoming class in Augusta. It is full, and it has been full for several weeks now. We will be at Cherokee Fire Department third quarter, and then we'll be in Forsyth at the GEMA location there in Forsyth fourth quarter. So if I would definitely encourage you to look at our website, and if they're not up there, check back by the end of the week. The new training date should be there. Absolutely. We do not, if and what we do is, and we say this to every class, every group that we have, especially if you all have someone that works for first responders, please reach out to me. Send me the information. We'll have our mental health professional that keeps our list. Reach out and vet them. But by all means, we're looking for, and it don't matter where you are in the state. I know the metro area. There's an abundance of resources there. I'm from Southwest Georgia, and the resources down here are way more limited. So we'll take whatever you can give us, and then we'll vet them ourselves. And if they pass our vetting process, then we'll add them to the list. The link is our website, but I'll tell you this: volunteer firefighters, volunteer first responders, they're certified, so they fall under our umbrella as well. We've done group work, we've done individual work with volunteer firefighters. So if they're a certified firefighter or a certified first responder, police officer, dispatcher, it doesn't matter to us if they're doing, if they're performing their duties, whether they're paid or whether they're volunteer. I was an auxiliary deputy before I started my career in law enforcement. So I did that for about a year when I was in college. So I would fall under the umbrella. I'm a certified post police officer in the state of Georgia. Then our services are available to them. As far as a link, they can just use the OPSS link on the DPS homepage website, and that shows this map that I've left up on the screen and the contact information. So all they will need to do is reach out to their peer counselor in their region and tell them what they have, and then they'll take it from there. Yes, COVID kind of forced that upon us, and I honestly I was really skeptical about how that would be received. But we have a couple of our therapists. I've seen them sitting in the car. They pull up to the office and they'll be doing a virtual session sitting in their car. So, and I think too with the younger generation, that's definitely something that's acceptable. But absolutely, we will provide virtual sessions as well.